So live streaming.
I recorded to 2 places just in case.
Right. And we record everybody mostly for the note taker to re-listen to the meeting in order to make better minutes. So
yeah, and then the Disarm meetings they are not public. They're by if you have the link, then you can get to it. It's not private, but it's not public either. So that way, if you want to go back and look at it again, it's available. Okay. June 11th, 2023, Disarm and Wars Issue Committee meeting is starting. And this time I'm going to be the facilitator. And so I'm asking for a note taker. And then you don't have to take elaborate notes right now, because you can have access to the video and can double check that you got everything that you wanted to later. And whoever takes this job on, I will be sure to send you the links so that you can do that. Anyone want to volunteer to be the note taker?
Can we twist somebody's arm? If you come to Palo Alto, I will take you out for dinner. Okay.
Wow, that's disappointing. Let's go to Vibes Watcher. Do we need a Vibes Watcher?
May I ask what a Vibes Watcher is?
A Vibes Watcher is somebody to make sure that people are being polite to each other.
Thank you.
There have been times when that hasn't been the case, and so we decided to create this entity that changes every time. So does anybody want to be the Vibes Watcher? It's not very much of a job because we usually are pretty nice. Margot Schulter. Thank you.
I'll take notes, but I might not be able to actually get to them till after the 24th of
That's
June.
fine.
Oh, good. Okay. I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you, Pam.
My turn.
And a timekeeper to make sure that somebody who has the agenda in front of you and can let us know if we're going over the time that's been allotted, so we can try to fit into the 90 minutes. Anybody want to do that?
Joan?
Cheryl, why don't you do that?
No, I think Joan just waved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you? Thank you.
Okay, that's taken care of. Does anybody have any revisions or additions to this agenda?
It's very full.
Yeah, I think we can probably fit whatever we have into what we have here. Okay, check-ins, 1 minute maximum each, please. Where you're from and something personal. We have a new section in the agenda, number 2B, short reports on your WILPF actions since the last meeting. So don't include those in the check-in, please. Just make this very brief.
And if you're on the agenda, don't do it in 2B. You'll do it in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, so let me call on Jean Wertheim. Would you start?
I already started, sorry. My activity was reading this book, trying to get into the Vienna meeting, didn't succeed. I have to listen to the recording, and lining up a meeting to present what WILPF is in a public arena, a community meeting.
All right.
And where are you, Jean?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in New York City, Upper Manhattan.
Margaret in Tucson.
Hi, I'm Margaret, and it's nice to see all of you. I'm sorry, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stay on today, and I may have to be in and out for the time I do stay. So just letting you know ahead of time. But anyway, so I call on someone else. Is that next? Is that
You could do that. That would be helpful. Yes.
okay? Margot Schulter.
Margot, you want to unmute yourself?
Mm.
Yes. I'm Margot Schulter. I'm in Indigenous Nisenan territory, and I'm with the Sacramento, California branch of WILPF. And I just want to warmly thank McGregor Eddy for calling to our attention the anniversary of Stanislav Petrov, coming up on September 26th of this year will be the 40th anniversary. And I want to warmly thank co-chair Charles Spencer for reminding me of the project I took on to write a contextual sort of discussion of that incident. Thank you very much.
All right. Anne Frisch.
Good evening from Minnesota. I'm in the Twin Cities. My big event of the year was the restoration of my house, kitchen, a bathroom, a dining room, a living room, and everything that goes with it. The biggest problem has been putting it all back together again. Otherwise, I'm fine.
I could go next
Okay,
to
Joan.
avoid somebody having to call on us all the time. This is Joan Goddard. I'm laughing because I'm just overwhelmed with the thought of what you just said. So I'm in the San Jose, California branch of WILPF, and trying avidly to get through email and so on and so forth. That's my personal update. And the next person that shows on my screen is actually Judith. Okay, I'm Judith Hand. I'm hoping you can hear me. I don't think I'm muted.
Yes.
I'm from San Diego, and I have just to introduce myself. I'm visiting today because I've never been to the Disarm committee before. I am a writer and an academic who's been studying war and the relationship of women to war for about 20 years. And as of this early February this year, I have a large website called A Future Without War. And for the first time this year, I have a feeling that I have a plan for how I would like to proceed with an actual program, something that you can do rather than just write. And I'm working with another WILPF member that some of you may know, Ann Hoiberg. She comes to this meeting every now and then. And Ann and I are working on a treaty idea. We're calling it for tentatively Project Enduring Peace. And if all goes well, I'll be getting back to you because I hope that WILPF will be maybe a home for us.
Wonderful. Martha Spees.
Martha Spees, Maine. I introduced myself in the chat. I'm working on a deadline, so I'm mostly trying to stay mute. Nice to see you all.
Okay, Pam Richard.
Hi, Pam Richard from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was just at an exciting event yesterday. There was a family pride event at the church where we've moved into, the Zao Church, and there was also a drag story hour, and the Religious Right got a hold of it, and 20 people came out and stood on the meridian across from the street, but we had 100 people confronting them and drowning them out with really loud music and our chants. Finally, they went home at 3 o'clock, and the drag queen came in her tutu and told the stories. So that was my weekend. Also, is there any time for an ANA report?
Yeah, in the next section. Yeah.
Thank you.
Philip Cole. Philip, yeah.
Hello, I am Philip Cole, a member of the San Francisco branch of WILPF, and I am currently working on home building projects 6,000 miles apart. It is more than a headache. It's unbelievable, but it's work that has to be done. So hopefully it'll be finished in a few months. Thank you.
Thank you. And McGregor.
Yes. I am very tired, so I'm going to say very little, which I know I usually talk a lot because I'm exhausted. I'm still on East Coast time, plus sleeping badly, you know, just the post. I just unpacked. And then I went to a thing this afternoon, excellent, but tiring, healthcare and not warfare. Very good.
Where was that?
Online.
And where are you?
Salinas. Just got home yesterday. I was in New Haven, Connecticut, and I saw the golden rule take off under 3 sails, no motor, all wind. They were so proud.
Wonderful.
It was lovely.
Cheryl.
Yes, Cheryl Spencer. I'm the co-chair of this committee with Ellen. I'm also a member of the Peninsula and Palo Alto branch of WILPF in Northern California. And last night, I went to hear an opera by a Finnish composer, Katja Sariaho, who unfortunately died 10 days ago. She wrote the opera called Adriana Matter, and it's actually about war. It's about a woman at the age of 17 who's raped by a soldier from her side. And then she has a son, and then so you hear all that, and then you go 17 years in the future, and now the son has suddenly learned that he's actually the result of a rape during a civil war, and he's very angry because nobody ever told him. And then his father comes into town and he's going to kill him, but then he doesn't. And anyway, it's just that I know Gloria complains there's not very much about war in the regular entertainment industry, but Katja Sarayaho has done it. And if it's ever shown, you know, done in your area, you should go see it. Thank you.
Dago.
Very good to be with you, and I love seeing your faces. Thank you very much for all that you're doing. I just wanted to tell you, I think I'm getting a little stronger health-wise. Yeah, and I feel better. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, and I think the last person is me, and I am.
Frisch. And Frisch as well.
Anne Frisch already spoke earlier. Yeah, she was one of the first people I called on. Yeah, I don't have anything particularly important to say about my personal life. So why don't we move on to anybody have a short report that is not on the agenda? I think Pam was one. Would you like to give us your report?
Okay, so it looks pretty sure that we're going to be joining Georgia Wand in Georgia for that's Women's Action in New Directions for the Alliance for Nuclear Accountability fall meeting. And so we would hopefully be touring Google power plant, which costs $35 billion. So it's not really a very energy efficient way to get our energy. And also, and it's on the banks of the Savannah River. The other side, it's not right next to each other, but on the other side is the Savannah River Site Nuclear Weapons Complex, which is vast. It's hundreds of square miles. It's full of these radioactive buildings and boondoggles, the MOX building, which they're converting to a plutonium processing building, which will cost $20 billion. So I don't know if we're even going to get to tour that because DOE has not been real forthcoming with tours lately. But anyway, we'll give it a try. And so that's what we'll be doing backing up, and then maybe we'll get to meet with some of the poor farmers and people in Georgia who are in that area who are affected by all this radioactivity. It's a matter of environmental justice. So that's what we'll be doing this fall.
What are the dates for this? Do you know?
Well, we haven't confirmed it yet, but I'm pretty sure we're going to do it.
Well, keep
Let
us
you know. I'll keep
informed
you
so that
updated.
if anybody wants to go to the meeting, that we can.
Yeah, I'll keep everybody updated.
I have a question. So WAND at some point disappeared and then it came back. It's come back as a volunteer-led organization, right?
I don't know if it's volunteer, but they were at DC days. And so they're getting some kind of funding.
Okay, because somebody preemptively closed them down.
Oh.
And this about a year ago, and now so they've resurrected themselves as mostly volunteer driven without staff, I believe. But anyway, and so this is ANA plus WAND in Georgia in the fall.
Yeah.
It got
Alliance
the
for Nuclear Accountability. Sorry about
Right. Right.
the acronyms.
Robin
Thank
Lloyd,
you.
would
Just
you like to check in? She came in.
Yeah, she was been trying for some minutes to come in, apparently.
Yeah, and I don't know what the problem was, but here I am. And yeah, so tomorrow's my birthday and I'm celebrating with a very bizarre candle tomorrow.
And
then-
we also have Odile has joined us. We haven't seen Odile in quite a while.
Do you know why there is a program? Why is there a program committee tonight?
There isn't.
Oh, it's not tonight?
No, this is the Disarm Committee.
Yeah,
She
but
knows
I thought the program committee was the same day.
No, I think they're on a Tuesday, aren't they? Cheryl, do you remember?
You're talking about which program committee? The National Program Committee?
Yes, the national.
No, there was some error 10 days ago. There was some emails sent out as if it was going to be on Maestro.
Okay.
And that was probably your confusion. And we tried to send out another message saying, oh, ignore those Maestro things. Maestro is, as you mostly know, was the system we used to use before Zoom existed.
Okay.
So no, there is not a program committee.
It'll be on the 27th at 8 p.m., Tuesday, the 27th. Okay, do you have any brief report, Odile?
Well, I just sent an article that I wrote on converting from the arm industry and moving to climate change. And I sent it to you, to Cheryl and to Tura, just for review. And then I will send it to my whole Middle East committee, and then hopefully it will be any news.
Okay.
Right, and thank you. I haven't had time to read it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Now, does anyone else have a report on WILPF actions since the last meeting? That's not on the agenda?
I attended the Code Pink conference that was at night because it was in Vienna. So it started at 3 a.m. in the morning and finished around 9 or something.
Mhm.
So it was on Ukraine mostly, and it was in Vienna. And I attended a lot, I was half awake, but I attended some of those. And I thought maybe WILPF would like to do something like that, more of an international conference.
So that is actually agenda item 4A.
Okay.
Because I attended some of that too. So those of us who attended can report briefly on what we heard. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to approval of the Disarm Committee meeting minutes of May 28th. Did everyone receive it?
I'm sorry it went out so late, but I've been busy with a lot of other things. McGregor had taken the notes, and then I go through and double check them and make some clarifying phrases and things like that.
Okay, so I'm asking for approval. Does anybody disapprove of the minutes of May 28th?
Since we since we have not had a chance, most of us, to look at them, if somebody has some comments, that's great. But if nobody has been able to look at them, maybe we should hold that off till next meeting or something. But in the meantime, read them and write to the committee if we have concerns or clarifications or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Is that all right with everyone? Okay. Okay, we're moving on to hot topics. How are we doing with our time? We're going pretty fast now, right? Okay?
Yeah, I had my hand up there for a minute because I thought, people who had come in later after you were talking about the time and everything might not be having that in mind. And one of the items didn't have a time on it. So, but anyway, we're moving along now.
Okay, when we get to that item, let us know and we'll let Cheryl.
No, that's the one that we just finished.
Oh, okay, good.
So
Okay, so the first is Ukraine reports on International Summit for Peace in Ukraine, June 10th to 11th.
Yeah. So I was able to attend the ones that went from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. my time, and then they went into breakouts, and I couldn't get into the breakouts. Anyway, I left before the breakouts. So they essentially had a lot of people from all over the world giving 3-minute introductions to their point of view on how to achieve peace in Ukraine. We heard from a bishop from Guatemala. We heard from Noam Chomsky. We heard from the executive director of the International Peace Bureau. We heard from WILPF Austria, who was one of the kind of co-sponsors of this whole thing. And she said there were actually 16 members from WILPF attending the meeting there in Vienna. We heard from Medea Benjamin, who I had seen in a meeting here. She was in the US and she flew out there, as she's all over the place. She explained to us that where they were going to meet, that conference center at the last minute decided not to let them. There's been a lot of these people in the media in Vienna, in Austria. They're being accused of being a fifth column for the communists.
It was a labor center.
It was, yes, whatever it was.
And they canceled 3 days before.
Right. So they moved into a church. Luckily, there was a church who took them. So it's been a bit ugly there in Vienna. So, Jeffrey Sachs, famous speaker, recounted the history, going back to prior to 1988 and all the things that have happened between Ukraine and Russia and Gorbachev and what have you, things that we've heard before. They had a professor from an Indian university speaking about the global South. They are, mostly not supporting the US. The global South, sees the actions of the US as contrary to most of the world, and so they are not supporting the US's efforts in Ukraine. And then I went to bed, and then I got up and I heard what they call Voices for Peace. And again, we heard from people in Ghana. We heard from the WILPF International President talking about that, WILPF is against war. That is the lady from Cameroon. We heard from Kate Hudson, who is the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament person in London. Heard from people, a lady from Manipur, a place in India that is just not in the news, but apparently they have a civil war going on there, and two indigenous groups fighting each other, which she says is being, the other places like the US and other places in India are encouraging these two indigenous groups to fight each other, which is, of course, contrary to their best interests. Thousands of houses burnt down. I mean, it didn't even make the BBC news. Okay.
Yes,
Anyway, so it was, the world beyond war. A man from there spoke. A scientist talked about the Hanford cleanup and how long, the government has now said to clean up Hanford in Washington state, where they did the plutonium and uranium and made the bombs for the World War II. It'll take to 2095 to really clean it up. 2095, right? We'll all be dead and gone by then. Czech Republic spoke. Tamara from Canada, who we always hear very good speeches, she talked about the wildfires in Canada and the climate change. And a man from France, Switzerland representative said, the Swiss as usual are ambivalent about this whole thing. Anyway, so that Italians, so a very good representation of Europeans and other countries, non-Western Hemisphere countries. And now they're supposed to they've agreed, I hope, to an appeal that they are now going to walk around to the embassies in different countries, like we walked around with our advert from the Hill that we got placed in the Hill, saying this is what the public wants. We want a ceasefire and a negotiation. So they're now going to take this appeal, which is actually on their website, and deliver it to politicians in all these countries. Anyway, so what did you think, Odile?
Yeah, your report is much better than mine overall. And I agree that it was for negotiation and de-escalation. That's what they ask for. That's what we ask when we do a demonstration every week on Friday. And you can see it on my Instagram. So, yes, that's what I didn't have as much specific. Maybe I slept through much more than I thought I would sleep through. But I didn't feel I learned something new that I didn't know from most. But there was a reaffirmation of what we believe in, of this de-escalation. And it's really time that what I heard from Europe is that the OTAN is NATO, and NATO doesn't have any more weapon anymore, and neither does the United States. That kind of weapon was all given. So either now those corporations that make us work on weapon, they are working full time to create new weapon to help with our tax dollar to kill many more civilian on both sides. So I think we need to be very affirmative about that. We don't want enough of corporation that kills people. And not just corporation, but stock owner. So we really need to be much more effective in giving our message of divestment from the armed corporation. And that's what I think we need to focus on, because at least until we have a real movement that speak about that, and a lot of people, and we put it on the media, on the TV or wherever, we put the money that we need to put to, so it can be on TV or on alternative media, then we won't have a real movement behind this divesting and this what Ellen has been working for so long. Divesting and what do you call it, Ellen?
Converting the war machine, basically.
Yeah, converting the war machine. So that's what I wrote this article about. It's about the Middle East, but the Middle East or Ukraine is the same thing, because we just spread too much weapons everywhere, and enough is enough. We need to start paying reparation to countries that we've demolished, and we need to put some new policy for reparation post-war, and we really need to make a big campaign to divest from those armed corporations and move on to climate change. That's it. Thank you.
May I say that the Proposition 1, which is Norton's bill, what it's about is, for those who don't know, most of you do, is calling on the US to agree to take the money from nuclear weapons and use it to transform the war industries to providing carbon-free, nuclear-free energy and other human needs, so that we're not taking jobs away from people. We're retraining, retooling, and starting a whole new production of what we need rather than killing people. And it's been going on now since 1990.
And for those of you who don't know, Eleanor Holmes Norton introduces it and works on it, but Ellen Thomas had a lot to do with getting it started with the organization that picketed at the White House for a long time, every day, all day, and had a public vote.
Yeah, and won. We won the election, which is why it was introduced in the first place. And voter initiatives are a really good way to get people to think about issues. Because yes, Jean, did you have your hand raised?
Very quickly, the Maripol struggle between two indigenous groups in South Asia is considered very, very critical. And it was featured in the New York Times, and I saw it on the BBC channel, television channel. And the fear is that such struggles will increase and spread. So I just wanted to mention that, because it is a critical point.
Right.
Do you have something that you would like for us to do?
Well, I don't think it's developed that much. It's just in the getting knowledge. Cheryl mentioned it because it was on the in the Peace Bureau or the Vietnam.
Right. And I watch the BBC News all the time. I had not heard about it, but yeah,
Channel. You watch the BBC channel?
No, the World News.
Well, I watch the
PBS.
channel, which is
Oh, you've got the
ongoing. It's ongoing.
What country are you talking about?
India. It's called.
It's northeast India in the mountains, and it's so remote that people don't hear about such a struggle. But the fear is that it will spread to other small indigenous groups or just spread. It's a ongoing situation.
Well, maybe you can send us a link to a story about it so we
When I
can.
find it, yes, again, I will.
Good, thank
just
you.
putting
Judith has her hand raised here.
Also, if I may, Jennifer for the stack, please.
Okay.
Who was first? Go ahead. Take the person that's first.
What?
Judith.
I'm sorry, was there somebody ahead of me? I did not want to jump in ahead of someone. Or is now a good time to ask a question?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to ask whether or not, in building on the BDS movement, if we could take a look at various PACs that fund some of our congressional members and consider putting them, those corporations, on the BDS list.
What is that?
I'm
What do
sorry,
those
what?
initials, identify initials, identify short words. You think everyone knows.
PAC is
Well, I know what PAC is. The initials.
Yes, is boycott, sanction, and
divestment
and
sanction.
divestment. Boycott, divestment, and sanction.
Thank you.
So there are.
Did you understand? Did the question make sense to you or anyone?
No.
So there are organizations that track which companies are getting money or giving money to PACs. There's one
I
called
know it.
Open Secrets. So
PAC is very common. That's a common term.
yeah,
It's
but-
the initials. People use initials when we don't know what they mean.
right.
All of us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The bottom line is, does that make sense as a possible approach to deal with some of this war machinery
Right.
and
So
support of Congress members who accept this money and vote accordingly?
so there
I
are
would need more
organi-
information to answer that question.
Yeah. But ICANN has got subgroups doing this. There are subgroups out there trying to bring attention on the companies and how they are lobbying politicians. And unless somebody on this committee wants to add it as a campaign, no, we're not doing it. We have a lot of campaigns already, Jennifer. And unless somebody wants to step up and get involved by talking to these other organizations, it's not going to happen.
Okay, I thank you for your candor on that one. Now, in terms of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, is that something that you're going to add?
I'm saying that would be a campaign that we don't have specifically on our list of about 10 campaigns. And
okay.
To be added, it would need someone to step up and say, I'm going to lead that. And then other people to say, and I'm going to help you. And unless people do that, it won't happen out of Disarm.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that, Cheryl.
Judith, you've had your hand raised. Would you like to speak now?
Yeah, before we get completely away from the subject of Ukraine, which is, I was very, very interested to know that so many of you had set in on that meeting. I have a friend who lives in Moldova, and I get some Facebook information from her, and I was also interested if there was anyone there from the Balkan countries, any of the Balkan countries. Did they have a representative, and what was their position on the war on Ukraine? Thank you.
So remind me, the Balkans are like,
Lithuania, Latvia,
Slovakia, Albania.
yes,
the ones that are right up against Russia.
Right. I didn't, there was a big website where they listed all the people who were going to speak, and I didn't hear anybody from those countries.
Are there recordings of this?
It was being recorded. I'm guessing those of us who registered will get a link sooner or later.
I was particularly interested in knowing what they have to say because they're the people on the hot spot.
Well, they had Ukrainians speaking.
Yes.
Oh, what did the Ukrainians have to say?
Well, it's people we've heard before who are on the peace side who are saying enough already.
Okay,
but
thank you.
They're a small minority, and some of them had to leave the country. We have a WILPF member who was on that point of view, and she left soon after the invasion in last March, and she's still out of the country because they are by and large, put down by the rest of the Ukrainians.
I hear you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have anything else on Ukraine? We've gone way past our 8 minutes.
Right.
Okay, next is
the next one is 2 minutes.
WILPF US has joined a new coalition, Warheads to Windmills. And there's going to be a webinar on June 24th that's being hosted by Massachusetts Peace Action, which are doing wonderful webinars. I'm very impressed with them, and they record them and put them on their video recording page so you can see them later. Did you want to say something about this? Was this Cheryl put this on here or somebody else?
Yeah, I'm encouraging you all to sign in. It's free, and as you say, they do a good job. And it's Timon Wallace who's very informed about all this, and we're trying to engage more climate activists into the anti-nuclear weapon actions. So if you go to that website, in the agenda, you will see who's speaking and you can register.
There's something else to be said about the warheads to windmills, folks. They're having a lobby session in Washington, D.C. In July, and they are asking for people to join them, to ask representatives to sign on to Norton's bill. There are now 7 co-sponsors. In May, we got, I have it here.
It is actually, yeah, the link to join that day online is on the page 2 of the agenda.
Okay.
It's 5A(2).
So we have the co-sponsors so far. The ones who joined with Eleanor Holmes Norton when she first introduced it were Jim McGovern from Massachusetts, Raul Grijalva from Arizona, Ilan Omar from Minnesota, Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, Mark Pocan from Wisconsin, and then on May 25th, Pramila Jayapal from Washington and Greg, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Casar from Texas signed on. So that's good news.
How many completely?
We have 7 plus Ms. Norton, so that's 8. The last session, I think we had, was it 15? I'm not quite sure. It might have been more than that. So we need to ask them to sign on because it's an important bill. HR 2775.
So we're taking this agenda item now, and that's really great. We got our work cut out for us.
Yep.
Essentially, all of us have people who are not signed on yet.
Yeah. Okay, campaign reports. At a previous Disarm committee, we put some campaigns into inactive mode. So we'll just hear today from those who are active. And if their leader is here to talk about it, the current campaigns, HRES 77, the Congressional Back from the Brink Nuclear Disarmament Resolution. Go ahead, Cheryl, if you
Yes, this is a repeat of what we discussed at the last meeting. These are all needing co-sponsoring. You can write 1 letter to your congressional rep with about 10 asks, because there are about 10 things we need you to be doing with regard to your reps, or you can write them 10 separate letters, which might be more effective. And there are other bills, restricting the first use of nuclear weapons, and then other people are saying we don't want you to spend any money to allow artificial intelligence to decide it's time to set off our ICBMs. That is the HR 2894. Okay, there's a worry. You've probably seen a big worry about artificial intelligence and what it might bring us into in various scenarios, not just nuclear weapons, but other parts of life. And so this is a bill to say, don't even think about doing that, and don't spend any money on making it happen either. So again, they're all there in the agenda. If you click on any of them, you will get to the congressional record, the text of the bills. And so that's, just a lot of what we need to do is to talk to our congressional reps about these things. They're the ones with their hands on the money, and we got to stop the money flowing to these things. So that's all I would say about that. I think McGregor should talk next.
Yes.
I just wanted to say I took a writing letters to the editor seminar lessons with Mary Leah Kelly of Tri-Valley Cares. And one of the tips she gave is if you write a letter to the editor to your local paper, it's hard to get into the big papers, but you can get into the local papers. It will be cut out and put on your congressperson's desk by their staff, and it will get more attention. I mean, your letters count also, but if it gets printed, they're looking at that as something that many of their constituents read. And she said it has a big effect. So it's just a tip.
And then put their name in it.
Yeah, but their name has to be in it. It's not to them. You write it to the editor, not to them, but mention them by name. It will be clipped and put on their desk. That I got that. Want to give credit to Mary Leah Kelly of Tri-Valley Cares.
One thing I would add to that is that some papers require that the issue, that the letter relate to something that they have written about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you need to figure out a way to tie it into something that they have, that the newspaper has written.
Right, that the newspaper has included. Yeah.
And another tip is that they always like to have a local connection to a national story. The best demonstration I ever did was the invasion of Grenada, because we did it immediately, a protest, while everyone was covering it, and we made front page just because we went fast. And I don't want to be pessimistic, but Dan Ellsberg is going to die, and you should be ready in your community. In my community, we have 3 local people with direct connection to him. The widow of the senator who published it. So we're planning, he wants us to do this, to have a local aspect, because your papers will cover his death, and it's our only chance. So
Who's going to die?
Dan Ellsberg.
Oh.
He's going to die soon. And since we know it, we have notice, so we can be ready. So I have already found out the 4 people with direct connections in our area. And tomorrow I'm going to talk to our local reporters to help them. They are so short-staffed. If you give your reporters a little help, you'll get much better stories.
And what are you going to say?
Well, I'm going to say what he contributed. They will already be running a big story, a story about it that's from the United Press. But local papers want to say, and the widow of the senator who published the papers lives here in Monterey, and then they'll interview her, and she can say things about continuing his legacy by getting rid of nuclear weapons, and how he you get local people and they will interview them, because that's their dream. They're trying to save local papers. People can get national news off the internet, but they can't get the link between national and local. So if you feed that to them, and if you know something's coming, you can be ready and get some good news coverage about nuclear weapons, because that's what Dan Ellsberg is about.
Thank you for that tip, McGregor. Good idea. Pam has her hand up.
Yeah, he wrote that book, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner, so you could bring that up. And, his current work, he's done a lot on, he also had a Zoom with Noam Chomsky about the threat of nuclear war in Ukraine. So those are 2 things that we could bring up.
Right. So we covered this about 2 meetings ago. Diffuse Nuclear War had a Daniel Ellsberg week that some of us followed and did things. And so please look at your past minutes of this meeting, and you will find a lot of things about him and things that are already on the web, which you can cut and paste from. Thank you. Do you want to say something about Petrov, McGregor?
Oh, I'm just, September 26th, in 1983, Colonel Stanislav Petrov was in charge of a new satellite detection system in the Soviet Union, and 5 alarms came in saying incoming ICBMs. He decided not to wake up Yuri Andropov, who was premier at the time, and many people think that he probably saved the world, because both Reagan and Andropov were new to their offices and nobody knows what would have happened. Some scholars say it wouldn't have mattered because the Soviet missiles they had then couldn't have reached the United States anyway, but a lot of other people say, you don't know. So I think that's the argument against it. So here's why it's important to honor him. First of all, he deserves the honor and they get forgotten. Secondly, it's a compelling story, and a human story reaches people. His career was ruined, but not officially. He could never get credit for it till after the Soviet Union fell. They did make a movie about him starring Matt Damon, but then never released it, never promoted it. It was just one of those things where Hollywood, it was a good movie. Hollywood abandoned him. was called The Man Who Saved the World, and Matt Damon played, but they didn't release it. So it's a story that's compelling, and most effectively in our argument against nuclear weapons, it's an example of how this particularly dangerous land-based ICBMs that cannot be called back once launched are the most dangerous nuclear weapon. And Dan Ellsberg on Diffused Nuclear War has videos about it, crisp, short, dramatic, beautiful, 2.5 minutes. Why land-based ICBMs are a complete danger, and the military doesn't even want them. Now, I don't like arguing against one arm of the triad as if the other two are okay, but I think this argument could be made denouncing all three arms, but using this as an example of how the weapons makers are driving policy, because nobody wanted this one. They didn't. We've got the quotes. The military doesn't like it because it takes too much money. Now they want to use it for other weapons. So I'm not taking their position, but it makes it vulnerable to educate people. So please, I'm not saying it's better. So talking about Petrov gives us a chance to talk about the current ones and how close.
So you want, come September, you want us to do something around this, and you're going to help us prepare, and Margot has written a background with a lot of history about this, and so as we get closer to September, you're going to help us do some actions, right?
Well, I'm working with some other people, but we haven't, everyone's exhausted and spread thin. So I personally am going to go up to Ground Zero in Seattle and celebrate it there, because I want to take the Coast Starlight up to Seattle, and it's going to be a peace train. So if anyone wants to come, it's one of the beautiful trains in the world, and it's the carbon good way to go, and it's restful, and I get a lot of work done on a train, articles, thinking, reading, heaven.
So are you planning on writing anything for the e-news about this?
As soon as I am less exhausted, it's my very next thing, but I have been pretty much flat out. So, but I will do it as fast as I can. It's my next item on
I'm
the
not
agenda.
sure whether there's going to be an e-news in August. Do you know, Cheryl, whether there's?
As she said, either July or August is missing. Anybody else got that in their brain? Just
Usually,
one of the months.
It does seem as if they usually skip it. And one of the possibilities would be for this committee perhaps to sponsor something and have an e-alert.
Yeah.
Have an e-alert. Yeah. Like a
Can
special
somebody just search their email and find an email from Wendy McDowell, because she explains that. I don't want to do it. I'm trying to keep track of the conversation. Somebody else search on that, please.
Oh, look.
Well, it would. She sends them out to the
branches,
the chairs of the
committees and the WILPF branches. Anybody on the WILPF branches? Just look, please. Can we just have 2 minutes on this webinar that was today? Fund healthcare, not warfare.
Go ahead.
I saw several people from WILPF at that. I got to attend one of the breakout rooms because I was actually working on the minutes. I was the only one in my breakout room, which was on coupling of disease, war, and war budgets. There were 9 of us, and they had 2 co-hosts and 2 panelists. And one of the panelists is a doctor who works in Ethiopia. And he told us just how awful the impacts of the civil war in Ethiopia are on the healthcare system there. It would make you cry to hear what he had to say. And the other one talked about the refugees. He's worked in the refugee who are fleeing usually from civil wars. Like there is 1 million people in that enormous refugee camp in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is one of the poorest countries in the world already. The fact they're trying to look after 1 million Rohingya in a floodplain is just awful. And so, how do we deal with things like that, because the healthcare systems in Ethiopia have failed. They take the resources to the military hospitals. They steal the doctors away. They steal the nurses away. So the civilian hospitals are left with nothing. There's no aspirin or ibuprofen for civilians in Ethiopia, and things like this break your heart. So, but I wasn't able to listen to most of the rest of so who was in the rest of that webinar today? McGregor, you said you were there.
Yes, I thought it was very well thought out. My background, I'm a retired nurse and my specialty was infectious disease. And I'm particularly interested in the way they distinguish between the delivery of healthcare and the paying for healthcare. And although we're not ready to take it up, Bernie Sanders and Medicare for All, that only addresses paying for it, and it leaves the rampant profiteering of the equipment, pharmaceutical, and for money healthcare. And she thought a better model is VA for all, because the veterans, but well funded, the VA system is all free for veterans, and it works. And it was just interesting because she says the difference is how it's delivered, not just how it's paid for. And it helped me think it through. I found them very useful. And I personally would like to keep working with them because as a nurse, I think I can use it in my speeches.
It was recorded, and I'm sure we'll get the link and we'll be sending that out to all of you.
This is Jennifer. I was also in attendance. I thought it was outstanding. And speaking as a healthcare professional, I agree with McGregor. It was wonderfully produced and delivered today.
Eddie, I am a nurse also, a retired nurse, but I couldn't attend this afternoon. I couldn't get on.
Okay,
We will send you the link, everybody.
Okay, the next question is, should we have a delegation to second meeting of states parties to the TPNW, which is going to be in New York?
And last time,
November.
so last time several people put their hands up and said they wanted to. And if you look in the minutes, you'll see who put their hands up. And in the meantime, I've realized is ICANN is in charge of the civil society attendance at this 2MSP, as we call it. Okay, it's not Reaching Critical Well. Reaching Critical Well deals with the NPT. ICANN deals with this TPNW. So we are.
What time it is?
It's there in the agenda.
November 27th to December 1st.
Right. And we will only hear 12 weeks in advance will they start asking us if we want to have a delegation. I've added myself to their email list. So I should be getting all the emails as things start to roll along. But the rest of you need to start looking for money to pay for your travel expenses. Okay.
I can go.
Right. I think I had you down, Odile.
Yes.
So,
yes. And I can pay.
Right. I mean, there is a mini grant that WILPF gives out. There is a process for asking for mini grants. You could go to other foundations. You could set up a FundMe page, GoFundMe. So, because our committee could only give a few $100s probably to a few people. So please, this is just a heads up, really. Those of you who want to go in November, now's the time to start thinking about the money it'll cost you to fly there and then stay for several days in a hotel. And Anne, are you going to go on behalf of the Rotarians?
I'm heading a delegation. We already have 7 observers who are going, one from Mexico. If we have a WILPF representative coming from Mexico, it'd be really great to have a side event. And that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Right.
Doing a side event with WILPF and Reg for Peace. We have several ideas that have to do with, one of them would be I'm inviting Christine on because she is joining Rotary. and hope that we can get her to come and interact with people on Korea Peace, which is coming up in Congress. For your information, HR 1369, and there's a rally in Washington, D.C. I put the link in the chat. I'm going to be there. And I understood that WILPF was co-sponsoring, but I don't see WILPF in the list. So that might be something to look into.
Diane Blay was going to talk to our WILPF DC group, but Diane's not here to tell us how she did.
Okay, Diane, who?
Blay, B-L-A-I-S. She lives in Maryland, which is, no, Virginia, pardon me, Virginia. And so she goes
I
into
would like
DC.
to connect up with her. I'll get in touch with you, Cheryl, and see if I can connect up.
Look at the minutes.
That's a really great thing to happen if we can get a peace treaty with Korea. That is one great step in getting rid of Korea nuclear weapons. That won't put a dent in U.S. nuclear weapons, but that sure would be good to move in that direction. It won't guarantee, it won't start with nuclear weapons. It'll start with a peace treaty. That would be really good.
I think if we could work with the Rotarians on a side event at the second meeting of states parties, that would be good, because it takes quite a lot of effort to do that, right?
We'll be there, and we're looking to do some planning with you.
Thank you.
So Diane Blay's contact information is, her email is in the chat, and so you don't have to get in touch with Cheryl. You can write to her directly.
No, and we'll write to her. And
Yeah.
Martha just put in the chat that she's already found that both parts of the fund, healthcare, not welfare, are posted already. She's found the links. Thank you, Martha.
Okay.
Thank
And
you
we
for the link to Diane.
Yeah. So we
The
already did the next thing, the Norton bill. We did that a few minutes ago.
Yeah. The Golden Rule has been visiting East Coast. Has anyone been to see her? Yes, McGregor has. And anybody else?
But I saw Eileen there. No, where's Eileen gone? Is she?
No, she hasn't been on.
She hasn't been
She
on.
hasn't been on. Okay.
Robin, were you able to get to see the Golden Rule?
No, I did not, unfortunately. I don't know. I don't take off for places as much as I used to.
Are they headed up to Vermont?
No, but Boston is close by. I tried to get my sister who lives in New York to go because we have a sort of, family connection with one of the original guys on the boat, but I don't think she made it either.
All right. What? Interacting with the media, did you have something you wanted to say about the Golden Rules, Cheryl?
No, I was going to speak for Gloria, who isn't here. She sent me a brief report.
Okay.
To give for her.
About PBS and newspaper articles?
Right. Well, this is actually more about the No to NATO, Global Women Against NATO, that we know is going on. It's in the minutes from the last meeting. It's against the NATO summit that will be in Vilnius. And so there are materials being produced to be distributed. And she's working on a press release with Kate Hudson, who I mentioned is in the UK, and Ada Donna, who's in Italy. So they are preparing things that we will then be able to use to say we don't like NATO, okay? So that was one thing she wanted me to tell you. And, oh dear, let's see. So
I have a question about NATO.
Yes.
Is there anything planned here in the US on NATO, or is it all we should go to Vienna or to
Brussels?
Brussels.
Brussels. There's going to be some online. Apparently, I remember now, we've been given a 2-hour slot. Our group who are working on this has been given a 2-hour slot within the whole meeting, the Against NATO meeting, which will be partly online. So yes, we will have a presence there. Whether we, again, is it something we want to do? Those of you who are out on the street, we're out in Palo Alto every 1 hour every Friday lunchtime, and we bring the signs when it's pertinent. So that weekend, I'm sure we will talk about the NATO summit and we don't like NATO. So I depend on the rest of you to keep in touch and keep track of all these events, and then modify your hometown demonstrations to fit what's happening in the major media. So I know, Odile, you go out quite often, and I think other people do.
Yeah, once a week. Every Friday we go out at 5:30.
Right. So this
We
is
have an hour vigil, so okay, we will fit the NATO thing.
It would be good if people who are regularly going out to talk about issues, if you would post information in the WILPF Smart Facebook page.
It's on my Instagram, and I can try to post it on.
You can share it to the WILPF Smart Facebook page. Yeah,
it is the 7th to the 9th is the anti-NATO event, and the actual summit is the 11th to the 12th
of what
July.
month? Of
July. Okay, so that's the same. And then there's this subgroup that Margaret Pecoraro is on. So you're making a new subcommittee of the AHR committee, right, Margaret?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. CCS, it's called. I forget what this. One of them is communications and one is a sensitization. I forget what one of the C's is, but it's CCS. Gloria McMillan. I didn't get a chance to talk with her today. I called her, but her line was busy. So I was trying to jiggle my memory about what the actual CCS was. But I know one is communications and the other is sensitization. And it's how she wants to bring modes of world communication into the 21st century, things that she thinks will really work for us in disseminating our messages effectively. So that's that.
Okay, so just the second part of this is these 2 films on Oppenheimer, okay, which we've been talking about now for several meetings. 21st of July is the premiere of the major dramatic film with lots of famous actors. It's going to be a premiere. Sometimes only happens in Los Angeles, but I'm assuming it'll be in the 21st of July is it's a Friday night. So it may be your local cinema will be showing it already, or it'll be the Saturday. And we've suggested that your local branch go to see the film, so you know the how it portrays nuclear weapons, and then be standing outside when everybody comes out to hand them some leaflet about the nuclear weapons are not the answer to national security. And what have you. So I suppose I will try to prepare some material for you to hand out. I mean, we've written lots of things over the years, but we need a nice succinct thing that talks about, you've just seen this film. Now think about the fact we've got, we had 2 nuclear weapons in 1945, and now we've got 15,000 in the world, something like that. So I would like you all to, commit to do that. And then we will be streaming, we'll be watching this other documentary that Hideko appears in. She's been interviewed, and she will be in that, and that'll be a much, I see the list. If you go to that website, you'll see the list of people who Chris Castle interviewed. Many of them are peace activists and people who are against nuclear weapons. So it'll be a more measured approach, I hope. And that'll be on Peacock. And I'm hoping you'll be able to buy to see it, because I don't subscribe to Peacock, but mostly you can go in and spend a couple of dollars and watch something. Yeah. Yes, Robin?
Do you know when it will be available?
No, we're waiting to find out. Hideko, I'm hoping, will be told when it's going to start streaming. When it's streaming, it means it's up there for some period. It's not just the one time. Hideko, have you heard anything about when it's actually going to appear on Peacock? Maybe
I
she's
don't know
not.
what Peacock is.
It's the streaming service of NBC.
Oh,
So it's not going to be show on the NBC public channel, so to speak. It'll be on, all the big TV networks have these extra things now where they show their shows that you can watch through your computer. So you're not watching them on your TV, you're watching them through your computer. That's what they mean by streaming, is my understanding. Many of you probably subscribe to HBO and things like that. It's similar to that.
HBO.
May I suggest that we could do something like what we did with the film from England and
right.
show it on a Zoom, so
Mhm.
that one person purchases the right to show it, to watch it, and then we just show it to each other on Zoom. We wouldn't be able to record it, but we could see it without everybody having to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know if their system allows that, whether they're
Well,
going to
it's
be,
easy enough to do.
but they may detect it and they may not allow you.
How would they know?
I don't know. I'm just saying that,
I don't think
keep.
I don't think it would be a problem, Cheryl.
Okay, well, that's good.
I think if it's a private Zoom meeting that is, you're just sharing the screen while you're showing it, I think it would be possible to do. I definitely think we could do it with Hideko's, right? Hideko? Is she still here? Yeah. Okay.
The dramatic film is going to be shown only in cinemas to begin with, and Hideko's is a streamed on the web, through the web. So, well, yeah. So those of us, will look into that. Ellen, you and me, and
right.
Okay.
Okay, Eileen isn't here to report on the lethal autonomous weapons campaign. It's interesting that people are talking about, and that there's a bill to stop the AI from having anything to do with launching nuclear weapons. I'm glad that that's happening. But we've talked about that already. Promote peace via treaties, side events being held during the NPT review meeting, July.
They're preparatory. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in between the major reviews of these treaties, they have what they call preparatory meetings. And so those dates, there is a preparatory meeting happening in Vienna. Okay. And if you go to that Reaching Critical Will website that's in the agenda, you will see the calendar of all the side events. So our usual organizations, abolish nuclear weapons, Global Zero, IPB, they're all arranging in-person side events at this preparatory meeting for the next NPT review, which is some years ahead. If you look at that website, none of them are showing as being hybrid yet. Now, it may be that they'll eventually have an online presence. Anne, did you have a thought on this?
Well, during the last NPT review, the last one was this past August, and we had we had 7 observers there. They had UN television was broadcasting all the meetings. So if you go to UN Information Service and try to get their news, their schedule of events,
UNTV.
their TV. You can watch everything that goes on at
But not the side events.
It's like
But
I
they-
finally had to unsubscribe because I can never get to those meetings. But when you know something's coming up, you can catch up.
Right. But unfortunately, the side events, which are organized by NGOs, don't always get on the TV and rarely get on the TV.
Any of them, but maybe we could work on that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, I'm hoping that these organizations will make use FaceTime or something to broadcast their side events. But anyway, please go to that website that's there, Reaching Critical Will. As I said, they're the people in charge of NPT stuff, and ICANN is in charge of TPNW stuff. So just keep that clear in your mind so you know where to go to find out about these things.
Looks as if Jean wants to say something.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say, if anyone wants to organize a side event, you have to do it well in advance because things are very precisely organized at the UN. I've organized a side event and you had to do it way in advance in order to get a room, because it's very hard to get a room, especially when we have such a large meeting coming up, that there's a competition for rooms. But it certainly can be done, and it can be done very effectively. And then you can hand out leaflets asking people to come to the meeting. You can do just usual organizational kinds of things. So I think it would be great if WILPF took part in a side event, depending on
Is Reaching Critical Will planning to do anything, or?
Reaching Critical Will is separate and apart. I mean, I once had a 5-hour conversation with a lawyer from Tehran, and he thought that RCW was a UN agency. And I heard this over and over again. So people don't think of it as associated with WILPF. They think of it as a separate, either an NGO or a UN agency.
Right, and so they deal with the NPT, and Anne and I, a few minutes ago, we discussed that we will try to get a side event at the second MSP of TPNW in November, which
Right.
will be in New York City. So yes. And have you signed up to get all those emails from ICANN?
I'm just putting it on the web, on the chat, how to get the link, how to get the address to be on the list that gets
Right. So enough. So yes.
on the chat.
In the agenda, it says Vienna.
No, the Vienna one is the preparatory meeting of the NPT.
Okay, you're talking about the real NPT next
The
year
TPN,
or whenever.
no, we're talking about the TPNW.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Maybe everybody else kept up with it. Sorry.
2 treaties. Jean.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we can ask RCW to be part of a panel because its writer is a wonderful speaker. And so she really draws in lots of information in a very cogent way. So,
Ray Atchison.
Yes, she can be a featured speaker along with who knows who else. Let me give you an example. Physicians for Social Responsibility has done recreations of what would happen if there were 2 countries, both with nuclear weapons, and what could happen. I mean, people do demonstrations of what happens. They do films that have been created. They do enactments. So, it's a very fiery kind of possibility.
Right. Now, remember, the TPNW, the issue there is the US is mostly trying to ignore it. And yes. I did send you all a link after the annual meeting of the Arms Control Association, where they had Jake Sullivan, who is the National Security Advisor to Biden. He attended, he gave his speech. I sent you the link to the written speech and the actual recording. And you stay on to the end to watch the questions and answers. So he was asked by somebody in the room, what about the TPNW? Because he didn't mention the TPNW. He spent all the time talking about nuclear weapons policy of the US and deterrence. And so he said, I'm trying to think, he said, yeah, the president, he was in Hiroshima just the other day, which he was, President Biden, and he wrote in the guest book at the Peace Memorial that, you know, ultimately we want to abolish nuclear weapons. And we know the TPNW has that goal too. So our goals are the same. But of course, the way they're getting there is different. So they'd get there much quicker if they just ratify the damn thing. So, and you can ratify that treaty without having actually yet gotten rid of your weapons.
Right.
Yeah, so you can do that. And then that's the kind of thing they'll be talking about at this meeting in November in New York, is implementing these things. How, you know, what rules are going to be set up? You know, how many years have you got to get rid of your weapons if you do have them, but you want to ratify the treaty? So this is the fiddly details, because if you read the treaty, it's nice sentiments and nice things, but there's fiddly details, and the whole issue of actually detecting if somebody's still got nuclear weapons. Okay, there's a whole industry of radiation detection and notification and allowing people to come in, and you show them the empty warehouse. Look, we've got rid of it, and now show me what you've done with the uranium bits. And you know, so this is all to be worked out. So anyway, so it's you know, so this is the kind of thing, and then our job, I think, is partly to, you know, talk about women and children and radiation and all because the TPNW says we're going to help people who suffered in the past, like the Marshallese. And so this is the kind of thing that we will, you know, be asking for details on and making sure that, I mean, I just read somewhere a whole bunch of money that was supposed to go to the Marshallese disappeared. You know, where did it go? I don't know if the rest of you saw that story. It was very very unhappy. So yes, Jean.
2 quick points, and thank you for mentioning the Marshallese, because I interviewed the women who came from there at one point, and they were very poignant in what they had to say, very adamant. As I've interviewed indigenous people, such as the Shoshone, and I've tried contacting members of Congress who are in key areas. You mentioned the Southeast, excuse me. But I just wanted to say the link you sent has a chart of what countries have what warheads. And so if you want to get more specific information, go to that link. That was very helpful. And I also want to make one other. I wrote an article about 5 years ago about the dangers of nuclear weapons and nuclear reactors. And the physicist who did the evaluation of Germany, and Germany outlawed its nuclear reactors. And he wrote to me and thanked WILPF for having such information. So, you know, it is read and it is a concern. So keep plugging away. That's all I can say. You never know who's going to notice what you've done, and it's very valuable. All efforts are very valuable.
So just while I'm talking about recordings of things, I'm going to be sending you all. So as some of you know, I'm a physicist, a retired physicist. I work with the American Physical Society, which is our 55,000 physicists professional society. I'm on the committee Forum on Physics and Society. I'm their secretary treasurer for 3 years. We had 8 sessions, invited speakers at 2 major meetings this year. And we finally got them on the public YouTube channel. And I'm going to send you, and so you can hear people like Sebastian Philippe and Anjahumdam and Casanova from Kazakhstan. So we had all these people, these experts, talking about various ways of thinking about nuclear weapons. And so those invited sessions with 25-minute speeches and lots of interesting slides they used, you will have access to them when I send you the email. It's really worth you watching these, because you'll learn a bunch of stuff that you didn't know, and there are slides in there that are useful. So please, and I had a lot of things to send you already, so I decided to put that off for a few days. And they only just went up. It took us 2 months to persuade the Physical Society to actually get them on the web. Most of the sessions are not posted because you have to pay a lot of money to attend the meeting, but we've convinced them that our forum is the sessions we have are of general interest to the public. So, okay, that's something I wanted to mention. Yes, Anne.
Carol, can I just put in a plug for getting our professional association to sign on and support the TPNW? We're trying to do this in Rotary, and it's a long haul, but where are the social workers? Where are the psychologists? Where are they?
I'm working on that. I'm a social worker. I taught at Columbia University. I taught in the School of Public Health. So yes, and I'm trying, and I hope that McGregor is trying with the nursing associations.
So where is it you want this to be signed, Anne? What document are you talking about?
Well, we should have an international sign-on of business and professional organizations.
I think that's an excellent idea.
TPNW, let's just do it, everybody in.
Okay, we have some.
You have something like that? I need to know about it. I'll put my address in the chat. Please let me know about it. I will try to help you on this.
And you're doing it, well, I wouldn't go to all professional organizations because I don't have links to them. But if you have a list, disseminate the list, because there are many organizations. I mean, there's Physicians for Social Responsibility that would be specific to nuclear questions. And there are so many, and many of them are affiliated with the United Nations, with the Department of Public Information. So that's really good. Double that.
We want the American Medical Association and Physicians for Social Responsibility, they're a peace organization. I mean,
well, that's true. That's true. But you can always ask them because of children.
Of course, they should sign.
But there is also the Academy for Pediatricians.
Yes, all of them should be signing on.
All areas of medicine have their own professional organizations.
Yeah, I think the problem is that there's really no international sign-on for the TPNW for business and professional organizations.
I think that's really good. I try to write to members of Congress, and what do I get back? I get, please contribute money to the next campaign. So I'm not writing very effectively, or I'm not finding the way to open sesame.
Okay.
You have to follow up with phone calls and visits. And
oh yeah, well, I can't visit, but I'll have to
can make phone calls.
I'll keep trying, especially with my local people who are quite good in many ways.
So are we done with this subject? Should we?
I think so. Yes,
Does anybody want to speak on, since Nancy isn't here? There was a report on Global Women for Peace Against NATO, right. July 7th to 9th.
Yes, they're working on it. And as I said, they got this so Gloria is helping to write the materials that will be used in the 2-hour period that our group has been assigned in the online meeting between July the 7th and 9th. Okay. So yes, things are happening. WILPF has a spot. And so and I'm sure when Nancy's ready, she'll be writing to us to tell us where we can go and how we can take part. Okay. That's all I can say. She apologized for not being here. But
the Middle East Peace and Justice Action Issue Committee to take a survey, which is being sent with this agenda. I didn't see the survey.
Right. well, it was there. Everybody else would have seen it if they had time. So during the One WILPF call last Thursday, that we were kindly given a 10-minute slot, and I sent you, all of you, the materials that I provided during that One WILPF call. And then the Middle East Peace and Action Committee also had a 10-minute slot. And they are concerned, as we all should be, that so few people actually follow the links in the e-news, right? You get the e-news, you get a paragraph, then it says read more. And we know because the people who do our IT can tell how few people actually click on those read mores, okay? 1,200 people get the e-news, and maybe 10% will actually click on reading more about what's the 8 articles that are in every e-news. So they want to know how well their message is getting to the general population of WILPF. And there are like 6 or 7 questions there about, what kind of information do you want, and do you understand what we're talking about, and so on and so forth. So so I thought to send you on that, if you didn't get to the One WILPF call and you haven't seen it, I've sent you the survey. It says in the top who to send it to. So do your best, because, I also worry about the fact that Disarm stuff doesn't get read, okay? So I think it'll be very useful. They're doing a useful job that will benefit us too, to find out what WILPF members in general, what kind of information they want and what are they really worried about. So I think Disarm members, should pay attention to that survey. It was the second Word document that went out with the agenda. So that's my pitch for them.
And we'll encourage them to share the results with Disarm.
Yes.
Let's not just say click. I have to fish to find that. I can't just click. And I think that's the big problem. One of the big problems.
It was a Word document. Now, if you can't, I'm sorry, those of you, Word documents are the standard way of sending things out. If it was in a PDF, would that help people that haven't paid to look at Word?
Hard to respond if it's in a PDF.
Yes, that's
right. Well, yeah.
So where do we find it? I go to the website, the WILPF US website.
No. You go to the agenda.
The only way I can get it. The only way I can get it.
It's in your email.
No, I don't get it by email. So
I sent it to you. I sent it to you with the agenda. Did you get the agenda?
Today.
Yeah, I got the agenda. Okay.
Yesterday, right?
Right.
And there were 2 Word documents.
Okay. All right. I'll look back.
Please look, everybody.
Okay.
They're the attachments. They appear at the very bottom of the email.
Okay. Thank you.
Or the top.
But
well, about the whole membership, I mean, I still think you have to fish for it. You're good about communicating, but I still think you have to fish around for it.
I only sent it to the Disarm people.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm depending on them sending it to the rest of WILPF.
I'll complain.
So, well, so okay. Fine. Please try to look at it and answer some of the, and just miss the questions you feel you can't answer. That's you're always welcome to only answer certain questions in surveys.
I am looking at the agenda right now, today's agenda.
It was an attachment to the email, but you, Judith, you didn't get it because you were not yet on the list. I had to send you the agenda especially.
Well,
so you were a special
I sent it.
case.
I sent everything to
Judith.
It came later. Yes.
Okay, good.
I'll go look at it. Thank you.
I just sent it to the Middle East Committee, MEPJAC. I just sent it this minute. So if they didn't get it before, they will get it again.
Well, it's their survey, Odile.
Oh, it's our survey.
Their survey, which I am trying to promote for them.
Oh, okay.
So, but they will see what we're trying to do to help them.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, I just sent it to them. So, okay. Sorry.
Never hurts to get it twice.
No, exactly.
All right. The committee support project reports, I don't understand what that is.
It's all the logistical stuff that we have to do to keep the committee working, including your treasurer's report and noting there's going to be an election and things like that. So we want your treasurer's report, Ellen.
We also want nominations. But yes, we have 2,864.20 in our account. And we haven't spent any money since July of last year.
So there is a little bit of money for those suffering great hardship who are trying to get to the meeting in New York. But, you know, we can't give you $1,000 to do that. You're going to have to come up with some other money.
I'm staying with some friend.
That's good. Yes, if you've got friends who you can stay with or relatives, and you can.
Yeah.
And planning ahead for November, it would be good to send information about people's plans and hopes to Ellen
To me.
and Cheryl.
Yes. I mean, we've got the list of people who said they were interested, and you know, we're on the email list from ICANN, and when they start being really serious about this, we will start being really serious. And we assume that WILPF International will have a delegation. That's how we did it before. We're a subset of them. And so that part I haven't understood yet, because Reaching Critical Will usually does the NPT, so we kind of talk to them once. But I assume that Reaching Critical will be part of getting people to the TPNW review. Okay, so but you all need to start putting it in your calendars and thinking about the money, and you know, making. I think you can assume we'll be allowed, so you could buy your air ticket now, because it's much cheaper to buy it now than wait till 2 weeks ahead.
And if you're looking for an inexpensive place to stay, look for the Church of the Brethren. You know, look at some of the residences. That's much cheaper than a hotel in Midtown.
And then the YMCA.
The YMCA is another one.
YMCA is very close to the UN also.
It's on Vanderbilt. It's right there.
Yeah.
YMCA, but they let women stay there.
That's right.
Okay, we will hold an election for a third co-chair during our August 27th meeting, and we need to have people volunteer or nominate other people for this. It would be helpful to have a third co-chair.
And
it helps spread some of the duties. Cheryl's been carrying the bulk of the load in recent months, and I'm very grateful to her for that.
So we did set out a few meetings ago, we set out some rules, which I wanted to try to keep the agenda to 2 pages, so I didn't repeat the rules here. But we will be sending out the rules about who can vote, and it's voting in person, and how long you have to have been a member of the committee to stand for the election, and so on and so forth. So I will maybe just send that out as a separate email to you all to remind you the rules. Okay.
So the next meeting will be Sunday, the 25th of June. Same time, same link.
Is there any other business? I mentioned these videos that I was going to mention, but I've already mentioned. I'll be sending you some links to these videos by knowledgeable nuclear weapons experts, people worrying about the Bikini Island and what have you, all that, you know, stuff.
Do we send a letter in if we're not coming to the next meeting? I'll be out of the country.
So where will you be, Jean?
I'll be out of the country.
Yeah.
I will be in Italy.
Right. Well, when I'm in England, I still try to attend these meetings. It's like midnight in
It won't
England.
be possible. I'll be with my family. It just won't be possible, I know.
Okay. So what letter do you want to send?
Well, I just wondered if I should send a letter in saying that I'm not going to attend to the next meeting, the 27th.
I will write it down that you've already given your regrets. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Generally speaking, it is nice for people when you know a meeting's coming up, if you would send your regrets, because then we're not hanging out thinking you're about to turn up.
Well, I can send.
And you're talking about early July, right? Not end of July.
I'm talking about the exact date she just gave.
The 25th of June meeting. She's saying she's
June.
June. Yes.
Sorry.
I will
I
be
might not
away.
be here.
I will be away.
I might be in France also, and usually I try to attend even when I am in France. But if I am in an hotel or something like that, it's not easy. So I will let you know.
Yes, please.
Okay, well, is there anything else that we need to talk about? We're only 13 minutes over our 90, so that's
Right.
Bye-bye.
I know exactly when that happened.
So please, everybody, remember to save the chat if you're able. I know some of you on iPads, for some reason, you can't save the chat on iPads, and really you should write to Apple and complain about that.
But I don't see the 3 dots.
The 3 dots are now below where it says type the message here. Scroll down to the bottom.
Oh yeah, I see them.
Sometimes they're up at the top for some people.
And there's a smiley face. There's a smiley face, and then there's 3 dots.
Okay.
Click on the 3 dots, save chat, and then it goes into this directory that Zoom puts on your device called Zoom. And then mine, it actually tells me it's done it, and it plonks it right in front of my face.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for coming and all the work you're doing. And we've got lots more work, especially around these Oppenheimer films in July. Let's work on that. And, get more attention on how awful nuclear weapons are, because I'm sure the dramatic film is going to make them sound like, the best thing since sliced bread. But we have to counter that narrative. It is based on a book. Somebody wrote a very detailed biography of Oppenheimer, which I've not read, but it's out there.
I have read a long biography called American Prometheus. Is that the book? It's very detailed.
Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, so.
Well, the presentation of him in Hiroshima and in Nagasaki in the museums there is not very positive.
Right, but the